So here we are running the George Jones Memorial Farm. It's a 2.5 acre vegetable farm, although we do have a little bit more going on. We have some educational programs, and we have bees, and we have a bunch of chickens and some pigs and some goats, and we've expanded from last year. We've got good interns, good people, and good vibes on the farm, good garlic. That's a warm-up.
Strap my belt, what goes up must go up.
When the new agrarian center started to manage the George Jones Farm as a community farm and education center, we had taken over a farm that previously was following basic industrial agriculture. It was corn and soybeans, a lot of heavy equipment, a lot of chemicals sprayed. We found a soil that was pretty much completely denuded of topsoil. So in many ways, the farm became kind of this microcosm for the impacts of industrial agriculture, and then the process of how do you go about restoring the farm ecosystem. And when I say farm ecosystem, I mean the topsoil, the habitat, the biological diversity, kind of all those things. How do we restore that ecological health? We realized that actually was a community question, that we couldn't go it alone. We couldn't restore the soil alone. It required us to create these connections within the local community to rebuild that. So, we had food waste. Instead of putting it in the landfill, we started composting it here on the farm and using that to restore the soil. We started to bring chickens out and would put leaf mulch from the residents of Overland from the fall. They'd put their leaves out on the curbside, and we'd take those leaves out here in the farm and put chickens on top of them. Chickens would dig at the leaves and manure everywhere, and over time we started to build up this topsoil that now today we have this thriving farm.
We're putting together garlic scapes with green garlic in order to send it out with the City Fresh order.
Doing today, man?
Trying to stay on schedule. To put it bluntly, we're trying to stay on schedule, which I can, because we got a Ford turbo diesel running on grease type of thing, and we got full tanks, man, so we can run, dog. Staying on schedule is a good thing. Gets people fed. The volunteers are organized. They get their job done, and fresh stops open up on time. So we're trying to stay on schedule. My foot's tapping right now because we're on schedule. It's about 9 o'clock, and we're looking to remain tight.
I'm LJ. I'm Lisa G. and Sylvia, work for City Fresh. I handle operations for Cuyahoga County, all of the fresh stops and basically anything I can get my hands on. So City Fresh is a program we're selling prepaid share bags. We're in neighborhoods throughout Cleveland. We're in lower income neighborhoods, higher income neighborhoods. Higher income shareholders actually pay extra, and that helps to subsidize the lower income shares. So when you come to our fresh stop, you see a table full of food, but you can't just come up and buy an onion or a tomato or a cabbage. You get a large bag or a small bag. You pay for it today, you pick it up a week later. I take that order and I quantify all the orders and I order a share bag from my farmers. I go through and I decide based on nutritional content, based on the budget, based on what's available, what's in the share. The food that we sell comes from local farmers within 75 miles of Cleveland. We have food coming in from areas like Homerville, West Salem, Miller's Orchard is in Vermilion. And all of that food, we order the food and we bring in the food. We have a truck that runs on biodiesel and a truck driver that I think runs on caffeine. And that's how we get our food here. What do you think? Or you don't want to taste it? I'll taste it. No, wait, I bet you can taste it. Awesome. That would be great. We started with one stop on the corner of Clark and West 25th, and I was the first customer. And the second year we had 4 stops. We had 3 in Cuyahoga County and 1 in Lorain County. And in our third year we had 16 fresh stops, which was just the craziest thing to have that much growth.
We want to get 9 first. The first 1 second. 9.
My goal for City Fresh is to feed as many people at fair prices in as many diverse neighborhoods as possible the best food that I can get them from Northeast Ohio. It's my goal.
Living it up under a city lit summer sky.
I'm only barely getting by,
City Fresh.
but I'm gonna live it up before I die. I feel so good, I don't know why. Living it up under a city lit summer sky, oh, yeah.
Here I stand, barely able to walk, spent all my money again. Well, I was thirsty.
I think the best benefits you can see are just the reaction that people have to local food.
Pretty ladies call me a keeper. Now that I got this confidence, I'll make you believe it. I got the top experience. I had to achieve it. My bank account is down the set. Well, I just don't need it, cause I got everything I want right in front of me. Yeah.
When we're bringing this food into some of the neighborhoods in Cleveland, just the freshness of the food, its appearance, the knowledge that is coming from a local farm, I mean, it's just a lot more fun of a system. I think it's really kind of a subtle thing, but it's a very powerful thing, that local food's really creating a higher quality of life.
It makes me feel good that I'm still able. I'm 76 and I'm still able to go out and do these things. That makes me feel very good. I'm a volunteer.
100% ready.
We're here in the hospital doing distribution for City Fresh.
And the food is delicious. I think we need to get it out to everybody that the food is good and it's fresh. It's called City Fresh, but it's truly fresh. And you get to meet people and you get to experience new recipes and fellowship with people. There's a lot into it. Some people have the thoughts that you have to have the money, but a lot of senior citizens, such as myself, have vouchers, and you're able to get it from there. It's according to your income.
Without that subsidy, what's the point? You know, we wouldn't be in business, and we're in business because we have that subsidy, because we want to serve those that don't have access to it, because this hospital in particular is full of people that have heart conditions, is full of people that have diabetes, is full of people that have issues concerning general health that food, fresh food nevertheless, could alter and change. Without those subsidies, and I'm thankful, I'm ever thankful for those people that are paying the regular amount for their food, because without them, there's no us.
And so I was just passing by and I seen the place and I just stopped by just to check it out and see what they have, and it seemed like it was everything that I wanted. It seemed like to me it's more fresher, you know, corn and stuff, you know. I know quite a bit about it, and those like the sweet potatoes, you know, I think that they're gonna be better because they're long and skinny. It seems like they would be nice and sweet. Yeah, it's a real nice deal. Good deal on it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's full, so it can go up on the top.
It's been amazing going from a concept to on the ground, running to taking off like a Canadian goose, just, you know, soaring. Having a life partner, which is the community. That's the idea.
Most recently, I've been searching for a job. So my in-between time allows me to volunteer, and that's one of the ways that I ended up here. I've always had a pretty healthy diet. At 56 years of age, I have to be even more conscious of what I put in my body. I do have a sweet tooth, though. I do have a sweet tooth, and I love the peaches. These peaches have been absolutely the bomb. They are so good. So I just love the fact that I can get the fruits, mostly vegetables here, and I can get a lot more for the money. That's important with the economic crisis that is upon us right now. It's extremely important.
CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. CSAs have been a very good tool for increasing access to fresh local foods in communities that are really poorly served, whether by supermarkets or farmers markets. You can scale the price of your CSA membership to reflect people's ability to pay, so it becomes a somewhat redistributionist model, but it ends up being a very good way to get fresh produce to people. And it's a really good answer to all the critics who say, well, isn't the sustainable food movement elitist? No, it can be, and it often is, but the fact is there are a lot of important projects like City Fresh that are working very hard to make this kind of produce available to everybody.
City Fresh is a slow buy-in because it's so radical of thought. Pay for the food ahead of time, food that's 12 hours old, it's not wrapped in plastic. What are you talking about? All these things go into food access. Food access in certain communities is a corner store with old potatoes, old onions, maybe a bag of lettuce. If I head down the street here, and we're at Huron Road Hospital right now, if I head down the street here to a corner store and I walk in, I can get drunk until I throw up. I can buy a pack of Pall Malls until I develop some kind of whatever, but I'm not going to be able to access what I can 2 miles away. City Fresh allows people, because we're coming to a neighborhood near you, to have access to these fresh vegetables.
I mean, in an urban community, you might have to travel, 2 to 5 miles to get to a good supermarket. That if you do not have an automobile, then you're relying on public transportation, and you're getting to a food store on a bus, and that limits how much food you can buy because you can only carry so much. You can't buy the larger discount items because they're heavier. So you have that problem of just being able to get to a good food source. But then you have the other phenomenon, which is that these food deserts have now been sort of infilled by a lot of fast food joints and convenience stores and gas station kinds of convenience stores.
It might be a simple fact is you have no grocery store in your community. And the stores that you do have, they don't have they don't have fresh fruit and vegetables. Well, you have your McDonald's and stuff, so people now operate off, I'm hungry, and they don't care about nutrition, they just eat. And then if nobody's ever taught a person, particularly a young child, that you cannot eat all this stuff, then they don't know. So they do what they habitually have done. They just eat what's there.
It's a phenomenon that has been actually evolving now for about 30 years, when the supermarket industry, for the most part, pretty much pulled out of urban America. And that began, I would say, in the early 1970s, when they just decided that, because of a variety of issues, including racism, including just the growing sort of poverty, concentration of poverty in urban areas, and the white flight to suburban areas, just sort of created a real sort of desire, you might say, on the part of the supermarket industry to get out of urban America and locate in the suburbs, where more people were now moving to and where the growth was occurring.
We offer nutrition education to low-income families and children in Cuyahoga County. We go out into the community. I have a staff of 12 outreach workers who go out into the community and through a series of hands-on workshops teach people how to make healthy food choices, how to plan their meals, how to stretch their food dollars, how to prepare food in a safe and healthy manner. If you eat healthy food, if you eat a diet that has a variety in it, eating from the different food groups, eating more fruits and vegetables, eating more whole grains, eating from low-fat dairy and choosing low-fat or leaner cuts of meats and eating beans and other sources of protein in your diet, your risk for chronic diseases goes down substantially. You're better able to manage your weight. If we can just make changes, lifestyle changes, we'll be closer to preventing a number of chronic diseases.
Yeah, sometimes my mom, she makes fruits with beans. She makes that and it'd be good.
We want people to eat more fruits and vegetables. We want low-income people to eat more fruits and vegetables. But we know access is a big issue. We know when fruits and vegetables are not readily available at an affordable cost, it's very hard for people to consume them. We know that the phenomena that grocery stores are fewer and fewer far between in urban neighborhoods. We are giving people tools to make healthy choices within the environment that they are living in. However, with that, we are not changing the environment. We are not really helping change the environment. But we also collaborate with programs like City Fresh, where not only are we providing the education and the tools for people to stay healthy, but we are also changing the environment. When these two things, when education and environmental changes come together, we see the fruits of that very evident. We evaluate our nutrition education program, and last year on a small sample, what we found was that people who participated in our nutrition education sessions at City Fresh Stops doubled their consumption of fruits and vegetables. Now that's, I have been doing nutrition education for a long period of time, and I have never seen changes of that magnitude.
I think education, information, that's something we have a public responsibility to provide, in the same way that I think we have the responsibility to address these food gaps in areas where communities are just not well served by grocery stores.
Well, first of all, food is what we are. It determines our health. It determines our well-being. In a spiritual way as well. Eating good food makes us happy, makes us healthy. Sharing it with one another brings us together. If we have crummy food, we're going to feel crummy, we're going to be less healthy, and we are not going to have any kind of quality of life that we could. Also, if we eat crummy food and we don't take care of it, we're going to have a trashed environment, a trashed landscape, and life is just generally not going to be as much fun. Most of the environmental problems that we are seeing now are directly related to the way we produce food. Food is fundamental to our bodily health and the health of the earth. It's all one thing. It's all connected. We are connected to the earth, and I think that we have gotten so disconnected from our food that we've forgotten how critical and how important it is, how related the food is to the earth, how related we are to the food, how related we are to the earth. And we're going to suffer badly if we don't pay attention.
You know, historically, mankind has always had the most intimate of relationships with the food that they eat. And it used to be a very close as well as an intimate relationship because most of the folks in the world were involved in agricultural production. And frankly, as you look around the world now, still over half of the people in the world are involved in agricultural production, mostly of a subsistence nature. But in this country and in most of the developed world, that percentage of folks that actually deal with food production has subsided to around 1%. And technology, after World War II, absolutely exploded in the countryside and really allowed for productivity in the countryside to really go to several levels above where it had been prior to World War II. A couple of primary factors relating to that were the munitions industry, which had really developed itself incredibly strongly after during World War II. It was discovered that the same components that were constituents of the munitions, nitrogen, was an excellent growth stimulator in agricultural crops, primarily corn. Corn is a very thirsty crop for the element of nitrogen, and it was discovered that this nitrogen could be applied to corn crops and dramatically increase production. That dovetailed together with a livestock industry that was growing and rapidly consolidating at that time, made for kind of a nexus of bad things happening in terms of consolidation and accelerated production.
And so agriculture became concentrated. And the reasons why, I think, in the history is basically a history of the success of corporate America. A lot of technology, large-scale technology for picking, harvesting, planting, plowing, and so forth. A lot of fossil fuel subsidies, a tax and subsidy system that supported large growers, not small growers. And if you look at the way subsidies work, they clearly work for the big growers, not for the small people. So farmers, the big guys, and here the corporate farm people, learn how to farm the tax code. And the research necessary and the equipment necessary and the financial incentives necessary to a small-scale, highly sustainable, very diverse farm system was eroded or just wiped out altogether.
And we are, in fact, right now in northern Ohio, about 10 miles south of Lake Erie, a little bit west of Cleveland. And we're in a rural area, and we're seeing a typical rural landscape here.
Sit and watch a silent movie. Make up words to pass pass the time.
This plant right here and this crop field right here is typical. It's a commodity grain, what is known as maize. Generally, we call it corn. This is feed corn. It's the kind of thing that's used to raise poultry and beef, not directly for human consumption, although this product here is used as a source of sweeteners. So in fact, we do consume something from this plant in a variety of soft drinks and things of that sort. In order to be able to make a living on commodity grains means you have to run 1,000+ acres.
And so we plant more corn, and we sacrifice huge amounts of landscape to it. And we've got about 90 million acres of cornfield now in this country. We use more pesticide and fertilizer on cornfields than anything else. We struggle to figure out ways to get rid of corn. We invent new things like corn-based ethanol, high fructose corn syrup, all to dispose of this huge pile of corn. So corn has really become the foundation crop of the American food system. Corn and soy, its partner in the fields.
And it's interesting now that farming, if you take the subsidies out of it, I'm convinced that large-scale agribusiness would simply collapse of its own weight. So the story of farming in America is very much the story of basically corporate takeover. It's more about politics and the corruption of economic systems than it is about the success of that system as a farming enterprise.
I think we have to change production, the ways we produce our food. We're trashing the soil. We raise hogs in these big hog factories. They pollute the rivers. They pollute the waters. Where the nitrogen runoff is creating vast dead zones in the ocean. We're overfishing the oceans. Pretty soon there's not going to be anything left. So that's why things have to change.
The food system we now have, we move food on average 15 to 1,800 miles from where it's grown or produced to where it's eaten. And you can do that as long as you keep the price of energy is cheap enough to move it, and you really don't care much about the offloading costs of pesticides and chemical contamination on people far distant from you.
There's another debt that human beings have accrued over the last 100 years, and that is a debt to our atmosphere. We have one of the corollaries of consuming, of digging up and combusting those billions of barrels of oil, those billions of tons of coal, is that we've accumulated millions of tons of CO2, excessive CO2 in the atmosphere, and we're finding that is having some profound effects on our global climate.
Part of what we're doing is saying that's one global experiment and that's one kind of approach. There's some flaws in that, and it's not in our best interest to be necessarily putting our eggs in that basket. We really need to look at alternatives that are ecologically based. We really need to ask ourselves, how can we supply our basic food needs without undermining biological diversity, without undermining the environmental quality. If we have a food system that's eroding soil, that's polluting the water, that's not a food system that's going to be reliable in 100 years.
You ready to go?
Ready to go.
All right, I'm Harold.
And you can just look at me. Sorry.
Pardon?
And you can just look at me and pretend like the camera's not there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm Harold Hartsler, and I'm the grandpa. with the Hartsler family dairy. Well, when I started farming in the early 50s, I wanted to have the best looking crops around. And I used a lot of fertilizer, a lot of herbicide, insecticide, and the crops were good. I had no problem with that, but the ground was getting hard. Couldn't hardly plow it and work it, but that wasn't the problem. It was the cows were sick. I had all kinds of problems with the cows. They had milk fever, and we had, when they'd come fresh, had to get the vet out, give them calcium and retained placentas and sick calves, and oh geez, something all the time. Whenever a cow would come fresh, I'd take the calf over to the vet and he'd give it shots and send pills along back, and 2-3 weeks that calf was dead. And I said something to him one time. I says, "Isn't your medicine any good anymore?" Well, he said, "You better look what you're doing in the field." And I got to thinking one day, you know, when you're on the tractor out there all day, you got a lot of time to think. And I thinking back how it used to be and how nice the ground worked. And so I was plowing one day and I got off the tractor and walked back to see how many earthworms I could find, and I walked maybe 200 feet and found one. Well, back in the early 30s, you could walk 15 feet and find a handful. Well, I said, there's something the matter here. And I began to look and study and think, and I found out that 98% of what it takes to grow a crop comes from air, water, and sunshine. And that's all free. So that's the way we farm now. We let nature take its course out there in the field. And it's working. And we got good crops. And it's a blessing to go out there and look at the cattle. They're nice and healthy and shiny skins and like they should be, and healthy calves. And so 1991, the cows were healthy, milking good. We had good crops, and the boys said, let's bottle our own milk. Well, that's pretty much of the story.
There you go.
I'm Deborah Steiner. I'm a research scientist at Ohio State University, and I lead the Organic Food and Farming Education and Research Program. A very key difference in the way we go about doing our research is that we're not looking so much for specific bullets to solve problems as whole management systems that will create the best possible environment for organic crops to grow and thrive. So what's going on in the soil? What are there things we can do, for example, by adding compost that we know will help to give the plants more defenses against diseases, create healthier plants, actually suppress disease-causing organisms in the soil, rather than just spraying the plant with a poison.
Because you can't get your fertility out of a bag when you're a bona fide organic farmer. You actually have to get the fertility that you cycle off your own property, because it's much more of a closed system.
The farm functions as much of a closed system as possible. You're generating the fertility on the farm, and you're not having to import a lot of material in, and that's going to be your most efficient.
Okay, so we need to work with natural elements on our site. We need to do stock rotation. We need to do crop rotation. So we'll have some pasture for a few years, and then we'll rotate that back into crop for a few years, and have an animal phase and all of that on the pastoral. So that's replenishing the system for the depletive phases of cropping. Yeah, the organic farmer has all of those systems in their armoury, whereas the conventional farmer, well, he has to get everything that's an industrial product that has a very, very high oil price. And that's getting more and more expensive, and less of, thank goodness, less and less of a place potentially economically in our agricultural systems. That can't come soon enough.
The way we're growing food right now is highly productive, very efficient. One American farmer can feed 140 people. But the only reason he or she can do that is because we have replaced labor with fossil fuel. And we can't count on that cheap energy that's really fueling our food system right now. We are going to have to learn how to farm with sunlight again, but in different, more sophisticated ways. And that is going to probably mean more labor, more hands on the land. Sophisticated polyculture farming, like you see here, takes more labor. You know, you need to weed this. You can't spray herbicide on this field. If you have a diversity of crops, which is really the key to reducing your need for both pesticides and fertilizer, polycultures take more work. They're more complex. So we need a more complex farming, and that's going to mean more people on the land. And I think that's really the big challenge going forward. Are we going to have enough farmers to feed ourselves without oil?
Green onions. These are all carrots, white carrots, and then orange carrots. Okay, yep, this is Pinesize Farm. It's an organic vegetable, flower, and herb farm, which is done exclusively for Great Lakes Brewing Company. So it's 1/7 of an acre. It's 60 feet by 100. It's 100 feet long by 60 feet wide. So we started bringing down beer grain because that's our basic, tool for enriching all the soil down here is to use the spent grain. And of course, I can't even tell you how many tons of grain they use each week in making the beer, but it's an enormous amount of spent grain. So that's a waste product which they're interested in trying to find a beneficial use for. And being such a great compost, we thought, well, let's bring it down, let's just start experimenting, and let's see what we can produce. Produce-wise, I'd say just pure produce that the restaurant uses would probably be close to a quarter of it came off of here this summer. These were cucumbers in the spring, and we harvested 1,000 pounds of cucumbers just from these 2 rows. So that's less than 100 feet of row. So to be able to harvest that much off of that small piece of land, we thought, that was the first major harvest we had. We knew that we were going in the right direction. I thought I was going to have a lot of problems with disease and bugs being in the valley down here, and I really just by having such a wide variety of plants, I think I provided all the host plants and the nectar plants and everything so that we were just literally relying on beneficial insects and birds. I mean, you wouldn't believe, as soon as it gets to be evening, the swallows just come out from everywhere and they just dive down over the garden and they just eat all the mosquitoes and the cucumber beetles, and the bats come, so it's where I did a lot of my gardening in Cleveland, and I, was basically just relying on, organic control methods. Came down here and the animals did, half the job for me.
And I think the work's been done around here by, Parker Bosley, Brad Massey, Countryside Conservancy, that demonstrates that there is a latent demand for higher quality produce. Mm-hmm. Now, it's the same way in any business. after you've reached the limits of that market model, can you really go across the valley of death to the mass market? And one of the issues you've got with the advocacy community now is you're starting to enter the valley of death. And the valley of death means that we don't have enough money to be sustainable through market mechanisms, but we think we can get there if we can grow the market. So you have to demonstrate that you can bring a quality product at a competitive price. And if it's not a competitive price, you're never going to get there. Then the distribution network becomes really important. How efficient is it? How dependable is it? Because if you don't have dependability of supply, then essentially the standard distribution network is going to win. So what you really should be paying attention to is the value proposition. Value proposition is brand name, quality, price, dependability of supply. If you got that beat, fine.
In 2000, Bon Appetit, which is a national service management company, took over the contract for Oberlin College, and they have as a corporate philosophy this farm to fork idea. They want to source as much food as they can locally. It's something that they have as a corporate policy basically for all their accounts across the country.
We found that the flavor of tomatoes didn't taste like the tomatoes that we remembered, or the melons were not the same texture that melons are supposed to be. And we realized this had a lot to do with the fact that we weren't buying food as much in season or from as close distances as we probably could. So in 1999, we went on a mission and tasked all of our chefs to find local food. Because as a company, we cook from scratch. We don't use mixes. We make our own stocks. So the flavor of the raw product was very important to us. So now, all of our cafes, we have 400 in 29 states, have to source at least 20% of their food from within 150 miles of every kitchen.
Case Western Reserve has a local purchasing power of about 20 to 25%, and Oberlin is at 45% of all the food that we purchase comes from the local region. So that's Gerber Chicken, Hartsler's Dairy, George Jones Farm, City Fresh. And if I could take the $800,000 to $900,000 of purchasing power that we are at now locally, I think that it could easily double. I think that there's no reason that we shouldn't be able to hit a couple of $1 million over the next couple of years, if we can find the partners to execute the growing of the products that we need.
If people know that the good food that they should be eating is just one or two steps from production to their table, then they'll demand that food. They'll know what it is and they'll start eating it more, and the more they start eating it and wanting it, the more that will be produced. The more that is produced, the less expensive it will be, etc.
Local food production is really critically important to local economies. And so the economy that's importing food and exporting dollars to buy the food is losing a good bit. Brad Massey did a study a few years ago, and if I remember the numbers correctly, there was something like $6 billion food market in northeastern Ohio. We were only growing or producing $200 million here locally. And so, $5.8 billion is leaving the region to buy food that a large portion of which we ought to grow locally.
Fortunately, grocery stores, especially independent ones like Heinen's and Zagara's, they are actively pursuing local farms and bringing in local goods and marking them as locally grown. And that's one way that we can change, is buying only those locally grown apples. We have great apples here. We have great stone fruits here. There's no reason why we can't, some terrific vegetables, corn, beans. We have great beef and pork. There's no reason why we can't eat locally around here more than we do.
So I think we're close to a tipping point in public perceptions about these things, and people are realizing that slow food, good food, locally grown, prosperity, sustainability, that's all a seamless web. That's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Cleveland City Councilman Joe Simperman. I'm here to say thank you to all the gardeners and volunteers who came out today to turn this abandoned parking lot, asphalt lot, into something beautiful and something that gives back to the community. We'd like to see this expand. We want to see more of these throughout the city. We are actually thrilled that so many of the gardeners who are here right now were part of the reason why, the main reason, the only reason why the city of Cleveland actually changed its zoning code to allow for urban gardens. It's the only city in the country that currently has a zoning classification for gardens. We think it's that important. If City Hall were a church, zoning is its sacraments. And so what we try to do is to show the value that we have for gardens by creating a zoning classification so that if anyone ever wanted to change this garden after we zone it as a garden, it would have to have public notification through all the neighborhood so that people would know, because this is very important to people in the city. We need to get back to our roots, so to speak, and having a garden instead of an asphalt parking lot is just a triple blessing. It's a blessing because we don't have the runoff that we have when you have just surface parking. It brings people together. It really breaks down the division that occurs. And in my opinion, it makes the area a much safer, more attractive place. You've got things growing instead of a vacant lot. And we can't say enough on behalf of Council President Martin Sweeney and Mayor Frank Jackson how excited we are that the volunteers have come here today to bring life back to this patch of Cleveland.
It seems to me that the same phenomenon that we now begin to call or refer to as shrinking cities is taking place in all of those former industrial, older Midwest and Northeast cities. And that is shrinking population, shrinking investment, loss of jobs, growing percentages of poverty in the resident population, old infrastructure that is extraordinarily expensive and difficult to replace. All of them are suffering from the same kinds of problems. And in the face of those problems, these cities are simply going to have to respond. And the latest tally that I've taken along with some of my colleagues over at the College of Urban Affairs indicates that there are about 17,000 vacant lots in Cleveland. And it seems to me that urban agriculture might be one very desirable, innovative way of developing all this vacant land.
How hard is it to put on these gloves, really?
It's a lot of work. It's bigger. We can take as much time as we want.
And today we're making our very first community garden here at the hospital. We're very excited about it. And to celebrate, we have Maurice Small of City Fresh is here to lead our garden.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
And so we've created a cake special for this occasion. The gardens we're doing are called lasagna gardens. So we put a little lasagna garden on our cake. And we have graham crackers layered with shredded coconut, layered with cherry pie filling, layered with crushed Oreos. And that represents the cardboard, the shredded paper, the food scraps, and the dirt. That's it.
Hey, I'm Judy
Montfort, and I read in the Cleveland Plain Dealer the 1st of June that there was going to be a garden, putting in a garden at Huron Road Hospital. And so I went there and saw and met the appropriate people and actually saw the garden put in. And I then came back and spoke to my director, and in 1 month's time I was able to get the funding for this project and get all of the resources that needed to be to put it together.
I feel great to be a part of it, you know, I mean, because it's something positive. Anytime you do anything positive and, you know, you give back, I mean, charity is in parts of all cultures, religions and all that, you know, give something back, you know.
But anyway, this is good, I like this. And then he even gave me some knowledge on why he's laying the fruits and the vegetables down, about how it's gonna turn back into soil.
Beautiful thing, and that's what I've noticed over the past 4 years, the fact that all income strata come together for one thing. You know, food, man, it's really crazy, you know, what food can do. And you know, that's the beauty of food. It's like it brings everyone from all regions together. Everyone. It's out of control, man. It's really out of control.
Keep your heart, 3 stacks. Keep your heart. Hey, keep your heart, 3 stacks. Keep your heart. Man, these girls are smart, 3 stacks. These girls are smart. Play your part.